Hello and welcome to a Wednesday, live right here on the morning after on Sports Grid and Sirius XM Channel 159, the home for Sports Grid Radio on Sirius XM, all across the Sports Grid network as well. I am Ben Stevens. It is the final day in the month of August. Labor Day weekend starts in just a couple of days, the unofficial end to summer. But if summer comes to a close, that means we're getting ever so close to football season. We're at the point in the sports calendar where certain sports are about to start. The National Football League begins in just 8 days. We are only 1 day away, just over 30 hours away from the true start to week 1 of the college football season when the entire nation gets into the action. But we're also coming near a close at the ending of a certain other sports. The WNBA postseason is right now. The final Grand Slam of the tennis calendar is happening not far away from us up in Queens at the 2022 U.S. Open. And we only have about 1 month left of Major League Baseball in this regular season. The push for the postseason here in September with October on the horizon. And September starts tomorrow. Are we seeing a potential postseason preview up in Queens as well this week between the Dodgers and the Mets, the two best teams in the National League, two of the three best records in all of MLB. And yesterday in the series opener between LA and New York, it was the Dodgers prevailing late over the Mets to pick up a 4-3 victory in the first game of this series at Citi Field this week. The game was tied at 3 runs apiece in the top of the 7th. Gavin Lux comes up to the dish. An RBI infield single scores Freddie Freeman. The Dodgers take the lead at 4-3, and that was the eventual final score as well. The Mets made this interesting. Down 3-1. Starling Marte hit a homer in the 3rd. Marcana follows it up with a long ball of his own in the 4th, tying the game at 3. But the Dodgers ultimately prevail late and hold on to that 4-3 advantage. The Dodgers win as a minus 142 road favorite yesterday. Now a 9-game advantage for LA over New York. The Dodgers have an 8-game lead in the win column over the Mets, 10 games up in that loss column, so a 9-game better advantage when it comes to that top spot in the National League. And the Dodgers, because of that, remain the favorites across the board. In the National League pennant, the Dodgers are booked as the favorites at plus 150 live right now on the FanDuel Sportsbook. In fact, 10 cents of movement back against LA from that number following the win last night for LA. But the Mets only 90 cents behind, the second best price in the National League at plus 240. The Dodgers are the favorites to win a World Series this year at plus 300. The Mets the 4th best price, $2 back at 5-1. It is DeGrom Day up in Queens. Jacob DeGrom gets the start for the Mets in the 2nd game of this series. So the Mets lose last night. New York has lost 2 straight games, but still maintains a 3-game lead in the National League East. It is a much closer divisional race than that of the Dodgers and the Padres. LA has a 19.5-game advantage in the National League West. Oh yeah, the Los Angeles Dodgers also have 90 wins this year. But our focus is on the National League East here because the Mets still a 3-game lead in the National League East. They are minus 440 to win this division. The reason the Mets have held pace despite the loss yesterday against the Dodgers is because the Braves are on a short little slide here as of late. A welcome to our Sports Grid Radio audience, the opening hour of the morning after, live on this Wednesday on Sports Grid, Sirius XM, Channel 159. All of our terrestrial radio affiliates now in the mix as well. I am Ben Stevens. Going around Major League Baseball, a potential NLCS preview playing out this week in New York between the Mets and the Dodgers. Well, if so, LA gets the win in game number 1, but it could be a picture of what we would see in a postseason series with Jacob DeGrom getting the call on the bump today for Buck Showalter and the Amazons. Right now, the Dodgers, the best record in all of baseball, 90-38 this year. The Dodgers win total before the season, 101.5. Their updated win total at the All-Star break, 103 in a hook. They are going to soar past both of those numbers. The Mets, the 3rd best record in the Bigs, the 2nd best record in the National League, 82-48. plus 240 to win the pennant, the second best price behind the favorite Dodgers, 5-1 to win the World Series, the fourth best number in all of baseball, and still minus 440 to win the National League East with a 3-game lead over the Atlanta Braves. The Braves yesterday taking on the Colorado Rockies. The Braves were booked as nearly a $4 favorite against those Rocks, but it's Colorado that gets the win against Max Fried, winning 3-2 yesterday. Interesting, though, Atlanta was at home and nearly a $4 favorite, and the Rockies still come away as a big plus money underdog on that money line. Max Fried got the start. It's the reason Atlanta was near a $4 favorite. 5 innings of work, 2 earned runs allowed, 3 runs scored against him, one of those unearned, on 7 hits. The Braves scored the first 2 runs of the game. Colorado scored 3 unanswered to back it up, and that would be the result for the Rockies yesterday, 3-2. So the Braves are 3 games behind the Mets in the National League East, but Atlanta still holds a 7.5 game lead for that top spot in the National League wild card. However, Atlanta has lost 3 straight games. Atlanta entered this recent 3-game skid, having won 15 of their last 17, but they dropped the final 2 of their weekend series against the St. Louis Cardinals, had the day off on Monday, yesterday at home against Colorado, a big favorite, and still another loss. The Braves will look to bounce back against Colorado today. We'll look at the National League wildcard picture, the American League wildcard picture, and all of that around Major League Baseball up next.
Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
They play less games.
The early line.
Take a look at the top 4 seeds here in the Big Ten. They're going to play less
Rodgers and
the morning
Russell
after.
Wilson. We saw movement in the marketplace like
Orlando
Fantasy
Magic.
Sports
the
today.
Cleveland Cavaliers are a little thin as well.
Newswire.
Minus 160 favorite on the money line today for Arizona.
Pharrell coast to coast.
That's where they win cups. They win Stanley Cups over there. Give me the
Game
Penguins.
time
Kind of
decisions.
bizarre when you consider, everybody is out for the Warriors.
In-game
Everybody.
live
I
all
like
access.
Vandy. I like Vandy against Bama. I think Vandy can win the game, take it 4.5.
In-game live, prime time.
The PGA champion.
In-game live, overtime.
done before the final bet.
Get the winning edge. Only on Sports Grid. The morning after.
How does Chicago respond in Game 2 tomorrow against Connecticut?
They just got to get better overall play offensively. Only held to 63 points. Obviously, Connecticut is a really good defensive team. And if it wasn't for Candace Parker, folks, with 19, 18, 5, 4, and 6 blocks, that would have been a double-digit home loss. They got to get better play out of Allie Quigley.
The Sports Grid Network. Fantasy Sports Today.
His ADP somewhere around the 8th round. He's a borderline starter for most in fantasy football, but I tend to agree with you. I think that of that range of quarterbacks between like 10 and 15, he seems pretty safe.
He does seem pretty safe, and you also know that you're going to have some good spike weeks with him. You know, when Van Jefferson scores one of those long touchdowns, the 3-touchdown Cooper Kupp games.
The Sports Grid Network.
Sports Professor Rick Horrow inside the $1.3 trillion business of sports with your daily numbers game. I'm at the U.S. Open, as you can plainly see, but we got a report on something that's even bigger in the short term. Mickey Mantle baseball card just sold for $12.6 million at auction, easily eclipsing the Maradona Hand of God 9.3. The Ali Rumble in the Jungle is up there too. Honus Wagner at 7.2. All 4 of those were records when they happened, and people talked about how that is a tremendous market. We're moving away from collectibles. It'll never happen again, and here it goes. And here in the tennis center, people are talking about how tennis players, maybe even Serena's retirement, will generate significant dollars. But you add on the normal cards with the NFT process, you've got a significant amount of money. Sports Professor Rick Horrow, Daily Numbers Game.
Today is the final day in August. Tomorrow starts September. The playoff push should Major League Baseball. Everybody hoping to play in October, at least those still in playoff contention. The Washington Nationals aren't in playoff contention. The Oakland Athletics aren't in playoff contention. We focus on the best teams in the bigs here on a Wednesday live on the morning after. And we welcome in our good friend, Joe Raineri, doing double duty on the grid this morning, was hosting the early line alongside Donnie Rightside for 2 hours from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern time. He will be here for a little bit in this opening hour of TMA. Joe, how much coffee had you have this morning? Are you ready to go?
I don't even know what day it is here, Ben. Donnie's got me breaking down Detroit and the Nationals and A's. I'm like, why am I up right now? I have no idea. So please, let's talk some quality baseball.
We are only going to talk teams here, Joe Raineri, that might see the postseason. And the Philadelphia Phillies should be one of those National League wild card teams. At least they are right now, holding that second spot in the NL wild card race. But that has not been the case for Philadelphia the last 2 days out in the desert against the D-backs. The Phillies get stumped for a second consecutive day yesterday, losing to Arizona 12-3. Raineri, in the last 2 days out in the desert for the Phils, they have given up a combined 25 runs. Arizona has been an offensive powerhouse against Philadelphia the last 2 days. Are you overly concerned, Joe, or is it just the daily grind of 162 in Major League Baseball?
Well, it's also part of a larger trend here in which the Phillies just have issues winning in Arizona against this team. They've actually done really, really well against the Phillies over the years. But I mean, the reality is, you mentioned, I mean, at one point, Ben, 22 unanswered runs during game, from one game to the next here, and it's only a 3-game series. We get one more game here today, but that is ridiculous. They had literally 2 hits through the 4th inning of game 1 and the 6th inning of game 2. The Phillies, my goodness, what is going on there? But hey, give the Diamondbacks credit. All I see is a young, youthful, energetic team that is crushing the ball right now. And I don't know how that's going to, why is that going to change right now? It's a 5-game winning streak. They are, 45 runs during this 5-game winning streak for Arizona?
Yep.
Why is that going to change all of a sudden with Falter on the mound? Give me Arizona first 5 again. If it ain't broke, don't fix it here, Ben.
And, Joe, we can judge teams that are not expected to do all that well based on how they perform against a spread in sports like football and basketball or against that run line in baseball. And the D-backs have the 3rd best run line record in all of the bigs this year, 75-53 on the run line, booked as an underdog in a large majority of their games so far, as was the case in these last 2 against the Philadelphia Phillies. But the Phils still, Joe, in that second spot in the National League wild card, a half-game advantage over the Padres, who have won 2 straight games against their divisional opponent in the San Francisco Giants. But the Phils have lost 3 straight. The Braves have lost 3 straight, but Atlanta still 7.5 games up for that top spot in the National League wild card. As we said earlier, Joe, Atlanta trails New York by 3 games in the National League East, but both of those teams are going to be surefire postseason competitors here in this year. We have to figure out the Phils and the Padres and maybe the Brewers if they can get across. But the National League wild card's starting to look a little bit more solidified at this moment.
It's take your pick there because they all have their warts and ugliness here, all of those teams you just mentioned, except for the Mets and the Braves. It is a toss-up between the Padres, even though they gave up the farm and everything else to try and make a run at this. Not convinced here. And the Brewers, you can't beat the Pirates. Like, everything is last minute, sweating out games against the Pirates. Is that what we're doing, Brewers? I think they're in trouble as well. If the Phillies can figure out the offense, which always seems to go MIA on them at stretches here, Ben, that's the thing that worries me. Not to mention, I think you and I could pitch better out of the bullpen for the Phillies than what we've gotten from them. So I worry about all of those teams offensively except for the Padres. They should be able to hit their way into a wild card spot. Doesn't mean they will, but they should be.
San Diego a half game behind Philly right now. The Phils have that second wild card spot. The Padres the third and final, but San Diego better odds in the National League pennant race according to the FanDuel Sportsbook. 12-1. Philly is 15-1. The Brewers are 2 games back of that third and final National League wild card spot and 6 games back of the National League Central. Make that 2.5 back for Milwaukee in the wild card race because, as Joe alluded to, they couldn't even beat the Pirates at home yesterday. O'Neal Cruz, the rookie shortstop sensation for Pittsburgh, has been on a tear, a 4-game hit streak, 5 hits in his last 4 games in total, including a home run and 5 RBIs. One of the young, talented players to watch across Major League Baseball, a big reason the Pirates won 4-2 yesterday. But yes, the Brewers seeming like they are clawing and clinging to any sliver of hope of making the National League postseason. But it seems like it is dwindling at the moment. Joe, as we flip it over to the American League, we have 3 teams contending for 3 wild card spots, all within a game of each other. Currently, Tampa Bay has that top spot in the American League. The Mariners have the second spot, a half game behind Tampa, but a half game in front of the Blue Jays, who hold that third and final wild card spot. Both Baltimore and Minnesota 3 games out. Joe, it seems like the National League wild card, we know the 3 best teams right now, the Braves and the Mets and the Dodgers, in terms of who might be able to contend. Do you think the Rays, the Mariners, or the Blue Jays could make some noise in the American League postseason?
Yeah, no. And here's why. You can't be this kind of inconsistent. How the Blue Jays aren't at the very least tied with the Yankees for the American League East Division lead right now is what more can the Yankees do for you, Toronto? They've given you every opportunity in the world to get back in this thing, and it's Tampa that finds themselves the closest to them. And you know, that's all you hope for in the second half there, Ben, is a window of opportunity. The Yankees gave it to Toronto, and yet here we are, and they're still 5-6 games short. So I do think there's going to be quite the battle down the stretch between the Orioles, between the Blue Jays, and between the Rays. But I got to see more consistent offense from all of those teams in order for me to buy that they can do some damage against Houston, the Yankees, and what looks like the Guardians right now.
And you can see it in the American League pennant odds. The Astros are plus 165. The Yankees are plus 175. Only 10 cents of difference between those top 2 teams in the American League. And then we drop off to the Blue Jays, who have the third best price, but it's plus 750. It's nearly $6 behind where the Yankees are right now. The Orioles, a road underdog today against the top team in the American League Central, the Cleveland Guardians. The O's 3 games out. The Twins have won 5 straight games. They are trying, Joe, to be an American League postseason team. But a bit of bad news for the Rays yesterday. Shane McClanahan, one of the front runners for the American League Cy Young, scratched from his start late. There was video of him in the bullpen, Joe, getting ready for that game. He left, and he seemed considerably upset that he was out of there. The Rays won the baseball game. Tampa has won 8 of their last 10, but that is concerning for anything the Rays are hoping to do in the American League playoffs.
Yeah, he was also out at South Beach the night before, so take that with a grain of salt. I will say this here, Ben. The news afterwards, when they interviewed him and, they talked to everyone, they're very optimistic that it's nothing, that it won't be a whole lot of time missed, that he should be back. So fingers crossed for the Tampa Bay Ray backers here that he is, in fact, going to miss just 1 start, 2 at the most.
We have seen a lot of the best pitchers in the bigs get shelved a little bit here recently. Justin Verlander, Tony Gonsolin 2 days ago for the Dodgers, and Shane McClanahan now. So much so, the American League Cy Young odds currently off the FanDuel Sportsbook. We go to the National Football League, a big day across the league. It was Cup Day. What happened? We bring it to you next.
Your heart's racing. The clock's running out. It all comes down to this. We're talking pregame. 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 Get locked in with Game Time Decisions. Your hosts, Gabe Morency and Cam Stewart, will get you ready for game time. Everything you need to know before a game goes off the board, with the bet slips to back it up. Make your best bet with live odds updates, late breaking news, up-to-the-minute injury reports, and real-time analytics from inside the sportsbooks. All the odds, all the action, from sports wagering insiders and industry pros like Donnie Rightside, Cam Lou, Cousin Sal, the Pro Football Doc, Dr. David Chow, and more. Get the winning edge every weekday afternoon from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, 3 to 4 Pacific. It's Game Time Decisions. Only on Sports Grid.
You might be the next daily fantasy millionaire. No matter what you watch or where you play, learn from the world's best DFS players. Lineup building tools, expert projections, and advanced stats change the way you play the game. Dominate the competition. DailyRoto.com, the player's choice.
The morning after.
Do you believe the Commodores can at least be a pesky team within the SEC this season?
I've been saying it forever that Vandy is not a continental United States type of team. They needed to get off the mainland to really find their mojo. And boy, did they ever in that third quarter against Hawaii. I mean, look, they are in a very tough spot in SEC play. They're still trying to win their first SEC game in the 2020s decade. That's what we're talking about
here. The Sports Grid Network. The early line.
Going for 50 home runs now with still a lot of room left here. The player special is out there. Over 61.5 home runs is plus 285. I know the Yankees lost, and yes, that matters. But Aaron Judge is just having a special season.
50 is a huge marker number there. He gets that last night. And then we're trying to take a look at where that's going to be in the future. 59.5 would be up next because 60 is the big marker.
Only on Sports Grid.
Back right here on the morning after on Sports Grid. A big day yesterday in the NFL. A difficult day. You're trying to decide your 53-man roster across the NFL. It was cut day in the league. We recap what happened and some of the transactions that we saw yesterday on a Tuesday, live right here on a Wednesday on the morning after. I am Ben Stevens, joined by Joe Raineri for a second consecutive segment. And Joe, it wasn't a cut that the Philadelphia Eagles made yesterday that caught the attention of the National Football League, but a trade with the New Orleans Saints. The Eagles acquired Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, one of the more versatile secondary members across the National Football League. A defensive back that can play nickel, can play outside in the cornerback spot, and also play some safety, which is what he is expected to do in Philadelphia. It was an intriguing trade. A shocking trade, really, between two teams, both looking to be in the playoffs this season in the NFC. A big move for the Eagles, Raineri, to acquire Gardner-Johnson. He will become an impact starter immediately for that Philly secondary.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he started a whole lot of games there, both Saints and Philadelphia. I mean, the interesting part about the Saints was we thought, hey, listen, Dennis Allen's still there. This entire defense, the top 5 defense is coming back. We still had some question marks with Philadelphia as far as that secondary. Maybe they figured some things out on the pass rush, but my goodness, the skill set that just swapped teams here is kind of crazy. Kudos. Makes you kind of wonder, what are we missing here, Ben? Because we don't often see this kind of swapping of players in the back end like that. this late in the game, but we'll see how it plays out and who eventually wins this trade. It should be interesting.
It's interesting as well, Joe, because Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is that versatile player, and you mention it. You don't normally see a trade between two teams that hope to be playoff contenders. It's not like the Saints are rebuilding by any means, although it's a new era with Dennis Allen as their head coach. But Dennis Allen was the DC in the Big Easy under Sean Payton for the past 6 years. He knows Chauncey Gardner-Johnson very, very well. So now he goes to Philadelphia. I think one of the reasons the trade happened, Joe, as I was reading on this yesterday, because it was kind of shocking, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson wanted safety money. He wanted a new extension. The Saints viewed him more as a nickelback for their defensive scheme, but he goes from one top 10 defense to another top 10 defensive unit this upcoming season for the Philadelphia Eagles. They ranked as the 10th best total defense in the league last year. And not often, Joe, do you see a defensive back move the market in the way that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson did yesterday. But pre-trade, the Eagles to win the NFC East, the second best price at plus 170, currently now co-favorites to win the division with the Dallas Cowboys. To win the NFC title, they were 14-1 prior to the trade, now tied for the fifth best odds, also alongside those Cowboys at 10-1. Again, Joe, not often do you see this much market movement because of somebody that's going to play in the back secondary of a team's defense, but it goes to show how talented that roster is for Philadelphia and how the addition of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson has the Eagles feeling optimistic about 2022.
I still don't understand because the Saints could have held on to him and just let him walk in free agency next year, and they would have gotten compensatory picks somewhere around the third, fourth round, depending on how good they would have been. I don't understand why the need was to basically do it. Philadelphia's got more draft picks than they know what to do with. They've got stock in that, so they got him on the cheap, which is kind of crazy, but I don't know if that correlates as much to what we've seen in the market movement with the futures market for Philadelphia as it is that, listen, on paper, and stop me when you've heard this, on paper, Philadelphia is the best team in the NFC East. But we all know what happens with expectations and Philadelphia teams. Just ask Embiid. I'm sorry, did I say that out loud? I'm just saying expectations don't often marry well with Philadelphia teams. And this team is going to go as Jalen Hurts goes. So Cowboys don't surprise me being that kind of low price because I don't even think once the Cowboys beat Tampa in week 1, what do you think that Cowboys number is going to be, Ben? And the Eagles aren't too far behind, but you got to believe that Jalen Hurts is going to take that next step because if he doesn't, ouch with the expectations.
Joe, let me make sure I heard that correctly. You believe the Dallas Cowboys at home, the first Sunday night football game of the year, will pull the upset over the Buccaneers? Tom Brady in his 45th year on this earth is 23rd in the NFL. You think the Cowboys win as the home underdogs as of right now?
I think they handle the Crypt Keeper. I'm sorry, Tom Brady. I absolutely think they handle it there, face and all, facelift and all there, Tom. But I do think, yes, I think Dallas will handle business at home. I'm a little worried about this Tampa team. I think everyone just says, oh, Tom Brady's back for his 90th year. They're going to win. Settle down. I think there's some issues, especially on the offensive line I'm concerned with Tampa, and I do think Dallas at home, they've got more than enough in the tank to be able to handle this Tampa Bay team. So if you like Dallas now, better hop on them in the futures market because they win that game. Here come the Cowboy backers.
Absolutely so, because the Bucs are still the preseason favorites to win the NFC with the second best price to win Super Bowl 57. Dallas right now, a 1.5-point underdog for that opening Sunday night of this year. The Cowboys and the Bucs opened the year against each other last year, the entire year in the NFL on a Thursday. Tampa closes a 9.5-point favorite. Dallas made it a competitive game, only losing by 2 points. We're just 8 days away from the start of this 2022 NFL regular season. And cut day was a big day yesterday because of that, because once that came to a close, it's pretty much the close of training camp. You focus now on game week preparations, all 32 NFL teams getting ready for a new season, and week number one. And there are always some shocking developments around the National Football League, like the Houston Texans, a team that has the lowest win total on the FanDuel Sportsbook at 4.5, parting ways with Marlon Mack, the veteran running back. So the focus now for Houston is all on the rookie out of Florida, Dameon Pierce, who was a sensation throughout this preseason. Joe, we talked market movement in the NFC East. The Eagles acquire Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. They become the co-favorites with the Dallas Cowboys because of the talent up and down the roster on both sides of the football. Well, because Marlon Mack is no longer a member of the Texans, Dameon Pierce is that lead back for Houston in 2022. He went from 14-1, Joe, to win Offensive Rookie of the Year this upcoming season, to 11-1 now, tied for the third best odds on the FanDuel Sportsbook. So market movement for teams within divisions and conferences, and market movement following cut day for individual players in these Offensive Rookie of the Year odds.
Makes total sense, right? You got to be available. You got to be given an opportunity to be able to win these types of awards. Ben, I mean, you got what now? Rex Burkhead is backing him up there in Houston. So it's an interesting combo there. But the kid earned it, and it just goes to show you how unbelievable the running back market is in this day and age. And when guys like Marlon Mack, veterans are available, Sony Michel, who's got a ring on his finger now, also available. You go down the list, Lindsey. It's like, all of these guys will sign with somebody, but it's amazing how little emphasis is put on the running back position here. And the rookies, here you go. They may not get drafted in the first round, but they certainly are going to have an opportunity to start in the NFL.
It shows how valuable your early career is as a running back in the National Football League. It's a pity they can't really get to a second contract after all they put their bodies through. But 3 of the last 9 NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year award winners have been running backs. Often awards, Joe, the Heisman Trophy, the NFL MVP, it's a quarterback-focused award, not Offensive Rookie of the Year. Last year, it was a wide receiver in Jamar Chase. We have seen 3 running backs in the last 9 winners. Dameon Pierce makes a ton of sense because if he's a bright spot for a bad Texans team, he'll earn a lot of those accolades. And throughout the preseason, he certainly was a bright spot. Came onto the scene week number 1 against the Saints, 5 carries, 49 yards, a big play threat. Did not play week 2 for the Texans, but to close out their preseason, a perfect preseason, by the way, for Houston. On Thursday night against the Niners last week, 6 carries, 37 rushing yards, a touchdown, all on that opening drive of the game. So the Texans feel pretty good about their draft pick of Dameon Pierce. The Raiders should not feel good about any of their draft picks over the last 4 or 5 seasons, including their 2021 first-round pick. Alex Leatherwood, the offensive lineman out of Alabama, waived yesterday, Joe, by the Las Vegas Raiders. It's a new regime for that Raiders organization, but they don't have a lot of their stars that they have picked early and often in their NFL draft. Joe, we've talked about the AFC West ad nauseum here on this show, but I don't know if I've asked you this question yet. Who do you have as the winner of this very difficult division in 2022?
I think the Raiders you're going to have opportunities to win an awful lot of money back in the Raiders here, especially in the division. But having said that, until, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Until the Chiefs move down a notch, you got to back them. I love the Chargers. I'm not buying the Broncos right now. I got to see it to believe it. But can the Chargers... You went out and bought a whole new defense to compete against, Mahomes. Is it enough? I don't know that it is. So the Chiefs should be the favorite. They're my favorite, but don't sleep on the Raiders winning some money here this year for you.
Maybe even that opening weekend of the year, a divisional battle against the Chargers. Las Vegas booked as a 3.5-point road underdog, although there's going to be a lot of black and silver inside SoFi for that opening game of the year. Joe Raineri, get some rest. Thanks for doing double duty for us here on the morning after all day on this Wednesday. More TMA up next.
Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
In the landscape of college sports, some things remain the same.
College football today.
Of Alabama in winning SEC championship.
It's the island of misfit toys.
Fantasy sports today.
You have to understand that.
Can they survive those first 4 games? They can go 2-2.
Pro football today.
This franchise, they are comical. Now, I'm not making light of the injuries. This is a brutal rash.
In-game live, all access.
You can take the money line.
And the sports book, if you shop around, you can get it at 133. But that's my best bet on the night, Joe. So that's the one I'm going big.
In-game live, prime time.
I'm a bit nostalgic. I'm going with an international, Jason Day and Sergio Garcia.
But boy, you want to give me 8.5 points with a desperate team facing elimination?
Get the winning edge. Only on Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
If you want to pick like a pro, you need to be in the know. The future of sports gaming is now, and we take you inside the lines, breaking down all the action and what it means for your bet slip. Turn down the game and tune into Sports Grid Radio. Other networks talk sports talk, but we walk the walk, right up to the window. Sports Grid Radio. Listen free on the Sports Grid Radio app, iHeart or TuneIn, or catch us on SiriusXM Sports Grid Channel 159.
The morning after.
What did you make of this decision by San Francisco to retain Jimmy Garoppolo, have him on the roster in the QB room for 2022?
Well, what we heard the entire offseason was how the 49ers were trying to shop Jimmy G the entire time. But they weren't hearing back great offers. Now, it doesn't mean he's going to be there for the whole entire season. As you know, it gives them about 2 more months before the trade deadline, and they could actually move him before then.
The Sports Grid Network. The early line.
Panthers-Browns is a 2.5-point spread now, so the line has moved a little bit. In fact, maybe you can consider it a decent amount, because this was a 2.5 Cleveland line for quite some time, which puzzled us. What we now have, the Panthers laying just under the field goal total here, very low, 41.5.
There's a lot to dissect on what the actual Carolina Panthers are going to be.
Only on Sports Grid. Fantasy sports today.
Cam Akers was one of the bigger stories of last year, returning very early from an ACL injury, and you know what a really great story it was. But unfortunately, didn't look very good when he came back. Now a lot can be attributed to that, and I guess that's why we'll do a deeper dive here. His ADP is 18 in terms of running backs taken. His positional ranking is 18, and overall is going approximately in the 3rd round.
The Sports Grid Network.
Just 8 days away now from the start of the 2022 NFL regular season. We get you regular season ready for football, live right here on this Wednesday on the morning after on Sports Grid. I am Ben Stevens, very pleased to welcome back onto the morning after. It is Matt Ehalt, the associate sports betting editor for Sports Illustrator, joins us here on this Wednesday on TMA to look at all things around the National Football League. Matt, thank you for joining us. I know you're excited for football as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Can't believe it's just 8 days away, seeing the Bills and Rams kick off.
Just over a week away. We go to the end of last year, at least the site of where we ended last season, inside SoFi Stadium. It was Super Bowl 56, now the Super Bowl 57 preseason favorites. The Buffalo Bills visit the reigning Super Bowl champs in the Los Angeles Rams. And right now, Matt, the Rams are booked as the favorites to win the NFC West Division for a second consecutive year. Plus 125, but less than 50 cents behind them, the San Francisco 49ers. We got that interesting development earlier this week that Jimmy Garoppolo was going to come back for San Francisco. Kyle Shanahan himself, the head coach of the Niners, said it was shocking yesterday that Jimmy G will be a member of the San Francisco organization moving forward this year. So, Matt, with all of those moving parts for the Niners and it still being Trey Lance's team, how do you evaluate the Niners heading into 2022?
You know, I think they're a fascinating team because when you look at them from top to bottom, that roster is very strong. And obviously, Trey Lance is going to give them a dynamic they really didn't have with Jimmy G, right? I mean, you watched the postseason games. The Packer game, really, he didn't play all that well. And then, the question's always been, can he make the big play at the end of the game? I think there's certainly going to be some bumps along the way, maybe early in the season with Trey Lance. And, I certainly think there's a lot of upside there. I mean, I think that perhaps the better bet might be an NFC futures overall bet than NFC West, just because I think they're probably going to lose a few games here and there as Trey Lance kind of gets his feet under him. Because, I mean, the thing to remember here, obviously, is that Trey Lance has only played, how many games, above at a certain level. I mean, we saw last year he was a little bit inconsistent. So, I mean, I certainly think the 49ers are fascinating, but I think it's going to take them a little bit of time to fully kind of get going in the Shanahan office and to kind of see fully what Trey Lance can bring to that offense on a week in, week out update. But if you don't really trust that Matt Stafford is all that healthy, if you think the Rams could be due for a little bit of a letdown, they face a first place schedule. I don't think it's crazy to kind of take the shot on the 49ers here. Certainly you get better value. And you've seen they can beat the Rams. That's one thing they do well, except, obviously the NFC title game, which is the big one. But, they've beaten them in the regular season, I believe, 6 straight times. So the 49ers, I mean, that's really good. I like that value on that team.
And you can see what the odds indicate for San Francisco. It's not a rebuilding year or a feel-it-out season with your second-year quarterback now taking the reins of the offense. This team is so talented, they are minus 220 to make the postseason, the 5th best odds in the NFC. But, Matt, I think you bring up a great point about the lack of experience, at least, for Trey Lance entering his second year in the NFL. 2 starts last year in place of an injured Jimmy G at those times. 6 games he appeared in. Didn't really play in 2020 in football because North Dakota State, the powerhouse of FCS, played a spring schedule and Trey Lance was getting ready for the 2021 NFL Draft. So the Niners open up the year on the road week number 1 at Soldier Field against another second-year quarterback in Justin Fields. And as you can see there, San Fran nearly a touchdown favorite, laying 6.5 on the road in Soldier Field. So, Matt, what do you think we'll learn about Trey Lance week 1 and early on this season?
I think we're going to get a general idea of kind of what Kyle Shanahan is, how he's going to run that offense, right? I certainly know it's fantasy draft season now. And so much of Trey Lance is people think he's going to run the ball. There's going to be this dual threat combo. We've seen the arm. You know what he can do. But people want to see how much is Shanahan going to try and get that running quarterback that if you look at it, right, like Matt Ryan really was not that, or he's never been that, when he had him in Atlanta. Jimmy G's not a running guy. Is Trey Lance going to unlock this 49ers offense that wants to run the ball first? That's always going to be their thing. So are they going to get a kind of a different look? But I think it's going to be interesting to also just see how do the puzzle pieces fit, right? Like George Kittle, is there still going to be that connection? Jimmy G, he obviously was a top option. Will he be as good with Trey Lance? There's a lot of reports. Brandon Ayuk looks like he's going to blow up. Well, is Ayuk and Lance going to become that combination? How is Deebo Samuel going to fit into the mix in terms of his carries if Trey Lance is, taking some of these carries? So I think it's going to be very fascinating to just watch and just kind of see how the offense flows, how many RPOs they mix in and stuff. I think it's going to be interesting. And especially they kind of get to do it against a Bears team that's going to be pretty terrible, in my opinion. I mean, there's a reason the 49ers are, essentially a touchdown favorite on the road.
And the Niners a 7.5-point favorite in their home opener week 2 against the Seahawks, who also have a win total like Chicago of 5.5. So maybe an easy start for Trey Lance, at least relatively, for the National Football League to get his bearings as the starter now in San Francisco. Matt, some great divisional duels to start off week 1 of the NFL regular season, including between the New England Patriots and the Miami Dolphins. These two faced each other to start off the 2021 regular season as well. The Dolphins were victorious as a road underdog. Miami won both games against Bill Belichick and company a season ago. The Dolphins booked as the home favorites. It's year number 3 of Tua Tagovailoa. What can we expect in your mind out of the Fins this year, especially in that opener against the Pats?
Yeah, that's really a fascinating game, right? Because Miami makes the big move. They bring in Tyreek Hill. Meanwhile, the Patriots offense, what is going on there? As someone who lives in the New York City area, I don't think you want Joe Judge anywhere near play calling. You can get some kneels on third downs. But right, like this feels like it's the make or break year for Tua. It's like if he can't really take that step this year, Miami has to take a serious look into what they want to do with the position. You got to remember the new coach. Obviously, he didn't draft Tua. We don't know what his actual feelings are on Tua. So he comes in. If Miami doesn't live up to expectations, well, I mean, the fascinating thing I just keep going back to with New England is seems all the vibes there are bad, right? Like they lost their top cornerback, in J.C. Jackson. The offense seems to be a mess. But like, are we gonna fade a Bill Belichick team? I'm not sure. I mean, I do think the Dolphins should win this game. New England has always had troubles in Miami, even when Tom Brady's there. So it feels like the Dolphins should win. But I also, there's some concern. Jalen Waddle hasn't been practicing. Will they be at full strength? Byron Jones is going to be down. I think, it's a fascinating game. And I also think like the Dolphins are a fascinating team when you look overall. Like they have an absolutely brutal schedule. There's one stretch, I believe, where it's like they face basically 6 teams that could win the Super Bowl in a row. So the Dolphins are going to have the work cut out for them. And I think it's going to be fascinating to see how does Tyreek Hill fare away from obviously Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Like how is that going to work out? As much as he can say Tua's great, Tua's this, Tua that, Tua ain't Patrick Mahomes. Everyone knows that. So it'll be fascinating to see how Tyreek actually fares in a different offense where he doesn't have, arguably the best quarterback in the NFL.
Matt, any spread under a field goal in the NFL, at least the expectation is we get a close, competitive game. And these two, the Dolphins and the Patriots, have very similar numbers in their futures prices for the 2022 NFL season. Both teams, a win total of 8.5. The Dolphins more juice on the over at minus 135. Miami is plus 142 to make the AFC playoffs. New England is plus 160. And of course, the Pats were a postseason team just last season. Do you think either of these two clubs, Matt, can make the playoffs in a competitive AFC this upcoming year?
I think both have the chance. Would I bet on either? I probably would pass on that bet. And the reason I do think that is because when you look at it, right, the Titans and Colts both have the advantage that they get the 4 games against the Jags and the Texans. So that sets them up pretty well. I think the Ravens are going to bounce back in a big way this year. And there's the potential that the Steelers and Browns might not be very good. So you look there, the Bengals and the Ravens might get wins. And I think those AFC West teams, I mean, that's just a loaded division. I mean, you could argue that the 4th place team there might be the second best team in the AFC East. My concern with the Patriots is I'm just not sure on that offense entirely, and losing some of those guys like J.C. Jackson, and they're playing in a tough division. And the Dolphins, like, I want to believe, I want to think adding Tyreek Hill, you get him with Waddle. We don't know much about McDaniel as a coach, and that kind of scares me a little. Like, the 49ers, obviously he was their offensive coordinator, but we know Shanahan, that's a Kyle Shanahan offense. So he's kind of taken his own system here. And the Dolphins are a team that kind of tends to underperform. I mean, if you ask me which of those two I'd rather take, I probably would rather take the Dolphins at plus 142 there, because I do think that there is I think they're the better roster top to bottom. But I'll admit I don't love the odds for either one, just because I think there's too many question marks with both of them.
Both teams trailing the Buffalo Bills in the divisional market in the AFC East. Buffalo is a minus 220 favorite to win that division. The Bills are the AFC favorites, the Super Bowl favorites. Their quarterback in Josh Allen is the NFL MVP favorite, and that optimism in the odds, Matt, can be seen for that regular season debut just 8 days away in Los Angeles against the reigning Super Bowl champs in the LA Rams. Buffalo has had this line work in their favor, now stands at 2.5 in favor of the Bills. Do you believe, Matt, in this optimism that follows the Buffalo Bills through this offseason now as we get ready for the regular season in 2022?
I certainly do. I think that they might have the best roster in the NFL, but I do think there is something about being the team that everybody's coming for. Now, I know they didn't win it last year, and I also think there's something with Buffalo. I'm a big believer in the Ric Flair quote, right? be the man, you got to beat the man. The Bills have never won a big game, let's be honest. Under Josh Allen, like these guys, they haven't won a big game. And I'm not knocking Josh Allen or anything, but my concern is, are we expecting a team that hasn't won a big game to run the table? And that's a tough thing to do, right? And even last year, they get beat, the Chiefs, obviously the famous 13 seconds and stuff. I mean, certainly they have all the tools. They have everything they need. I just sometimes get a little hesitant with those teams that really have not made that leap. And I'm a little – Sean McDermott, to me, there's some questions there about how he manages games late and stuff. So, I mean, I certainly get why you would bet the Bills and stuff. I just have a little bit of hesitancy there when you have those teams that just they struggle in the big games the way the Bills have. That's pretty much – and also – AFC is just so loaded. I mean, if the Bills were in the NFC, and I think the only teams in the NFC, the Bucs and the Packs, maybe the Rams, but these other ones, I'm just not buying. It's just so hard, I think, to really feel good about any AFC team at the moment.
Yeah, the Bills the favorites to win the AFC because of the path through the AFC West being so difficult. We mentioned this earlier, Matt. The Raiders and the Chargers, they open up the season against each other. Right now, LA, who has a ton of optimism as well, a 3.5-point home favorite against Las Vegas. Matt Ehalt of Sports Illustrated joining us here on the morning after on this Wednesday, getting us set for a new National Football League season in 2022. Matt, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thanks for having me. Appreciate the time.
Of course. We round out hour number 1 of the morning after. Up next, live right here on Sports.
Sports Grid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
They play less games.
The early line.
Take a look at the top 4 seeds here in the Big Ten. They're going to play less.
Rodgers and
the morning
Russell
after.
Wilson. We saw movement in the marketplace like
Orlando
Fantasy
Magic.
Sports
the
today.
Cleveland Cavaliers are a little thin as well.
Newswire.
Minus 160 favorite on the money line today for Arizona.
Pharrell coast to
CBG,
coast.
that's where they win cups. They win Stanley Cups over there. Give me the
Game
Penguins.
time
Kind
decisions.
of bizarre when you consider everybody is out for the Warriors.
In-game live all access.
I like Vandy against Bama. I think Vandy can win the game, take it 4.5.
In-game live, prime time. In-game live, overtime.
All done before the final bet.
Get the winning edge. Only on Sports Grid.
You might be the next daily fantasy millionaire. No matter what you watch or where you play, learn from the world's best DFS players. Lineup building tools, expert projections, and advanced stats change the way you play the game. Dominate the competition. DailyRoto.com, the player's choice.
The morning after.
How does Chicago respond in Game 2 tomorrow against Connecticut?
They just got to get better overall play offensively. Only held to 63 points. Obviously, Connecticut is a really good defensive team. And if it wasn't for Candace Parker, folks, with 19, 18, 5, 4, and 6 blocks, that would have been a double-digit home loss. They got to get better play out of Allie Quigley.
The Sports Grid Network. Fantasy Sports Today.
Cooper Kupp is one that I tend to doubt, Davis. Why do I doubt? I look at huge numbers in sports for anyone and say they can't do that again.
Cooper Kupp is a phenomenal player. He's got multiple 1,000-yard seasons under his belt, 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns. A little bit of a downturn for him in 2020. Then the team trades for Matthew Stafford, and far and away, Cooper Kupp was the biggest beneficiary.
The Sports Grid Network. The early line.
Is that what we're seeing here right now? A fade of Taijuan Walker despite being home here against the Dodgers?
That's exactly what we're seeing here, because if you take a look at Taijuan Walker, who we expected many more bigger things here in 2022 than we've gotten out of him, particularly over the last 30 days, which seems like you're right. Every time Taijuan Walker's start comes up, we sort of try to fade that way or say, oh, maybe it's a chance for the game to get over, or at least for the other team to get some base hits here.
Only on Sports Grid.
Closing out hour number 1, the morning after, live here on this Wednesday on Sports Grid and Sirius XM channel 159. That's the home for Sports Grid Radio on Sirius XM, all across the Sports Grid network. I am Ben Stevens. Thank you for joining us here live on this Wednesday TMA. A big day yesterday, as we have said, in the National Football League. Cut day. Teams needing to trim down their rosters to just 53 players, which leads to a lot on the transactional wire across the National Football League, including a rather shocking trade between the New Orleans Saints and the Philadelphia Eagles. The Birds give the Saints a couple of late-round draft picks over the next 2 years, and the Saints give the Eagles Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, one of the most versatile skill sets you will find in the secondary in all the National Football League. And we saw immediate market movement adding to an already talented roster for the Philadelphia Eagles. So between the battle of the NFC East right now, the Cowboys and the Eagles booked as co-favorites, which team has the best opportunity to make the NFC postseason in 2022? That's what we asked you in Fade the Public. So between the Eagles and the Cowboys, which team has the better chance of making the playoffs this year in the NFL? And right now, the public has backed the Eagles all offseason long, and they continue to do so just 8 days away from the start of the NFL regular season. The Eagles, at nearly 73.5%, according to the public, have the better chance of making the postseason within the NFC. At Sports Grid TV on Twitter for this active and ongoing Fade the Public poll, but the public backing the Birds. Right now, again, the Eagles and the Cowboys, co-favorites to make to win the NFC East, but the Cowboys better odds than the Eagles to make the postseason. Dallas is minus 260. Philly is minus 178. But the market movement yesterday was for Philly to be right alongside Dallas at plus 145, co-favorites to win that wacky NFC East division. We come back for hour number 2 of a Wednesday on the morning after. Up next, live right here on Sports.